Hey guys, it's your coach Katelyn Lesk here, and I was reminded by a customer the other day that now at this point in my business that I've been a coach for a little over 2.5 years. A lot of people that I'm meeting now don't know my story of how I initially got into this, and it's a really cool story because it had a lot of synchronicities in it, and it really taught me to just trust the universe and trust that I was being guided. And so I want to share it with you in hopes that maybe it'll inspire you to look at areas in your life where the universe is making you feel like it's got your back. So in early of 2012, I was working as an engineer for a startup company, and I was doing a lot of international traveling and clinical work and sales stuff related to that. And it was getting to be a lot. It was very stressful, and being on the go like that, it was just not pleasing to me. I'm grateful for the experiences that I have, but I was really stressed out and borderline depressed, the more I got into it, because it was just way too stressful. And during that time, I was feeling pretty down, and I started to make all kinds of lists of, times in my life I've been the happiest, times where I felt that I've been the most effective at what I do, what I felt passionate about, all these different things, because I really wanted to know that if the traveling and the job got to be too stressful and I had to quit, what would I want to do instead? I didn't want, I did love the company I worked for and the people I worked for, and I didn't want to leave. So I really kind of felt like, well, if I quit, would there even be anything better out there? So it was kind of a process I went through in the midst of that point in my life. But as it turns out, the traveling ended up slowing down and things got to be a lot better. So I just kind of tabled those lists that I made and continued on with my life. But the summer of 2012, my favorite instructor at my gym who taught a turbo kick class that I loved moved. And a few of my other friends that had been going to the gym with me just didn't live in the area anymore or weren't going as often. And I really just started to lose motivation for the gym. I had been going to the same gym for 5 years, and I knew a lot of people there, which was great, but it also made trips to the gym really time consuming, just chatting with others and, waiting for classes to start and things like that. So I really just started to lose my motivation for it. So when my instructor left, she told me that the class that she taught, which was Turbo Kick, was based on a program by Beachbody called Turbo Fire. And I knew that a friend of mine from high school was a coach. So I contacted her, and I ended up deciding to take a break from my gym and try to do one of these at-home workout programs that come on DVDs. So it's a series of workouts, and you follow a calendar, and it's anywhere from a 20-day program to a 90-day program. And as it turns out, I ended up deciding to do a program called Chalene Extreme because I really wanted to work on my strength. And then I decided that if I liked it and I could stick with it, then I would buy myself Turbo Fire as a reward because I already knew I loved that format. So my coach, Nicole, that I signed up with, put me in a group with about 7 other women, and we were all doing Chalene Extreme together. So this group was on Facebook, so we could talk to each other every day, compare notes about the program, what kind of weights we were using, what recipes we were making, and just generally support and encourage each other. And I just thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I felt like I had more social accountability through this virtual online group through Facebook than I ever did at my gym. And it just was really encouraging to me that I could post about my struggles or my successes at any point, 24 hours a day, and somebody would be there to get back to me shortly after. And so we really just bonded, and I loved the program I was doing, but I also loved this format of having that kind of social support, but everybody could still do their workout on their own time. We didn't have to meet. We didn't have to be doing the workouts at the same time. It was just, so it fit into everybody's schedule, and then we could just support each other through these groups. So when my coach approached me about coaching myself, which I didn't even realize I could do, I didn't realize number one, that anybody could do it, and number two, that I would be on her team. I wouldn't be a competitor, which is what I assumed and was afraid of. So when she approached me, I was on top of the world. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, and I could not wait to run these groups of my own and help other people in this way. So I signed up to be a coach in August of 2012, and at the time, she took me to a picnic with some local coaches, some of whom had been doing this full time, and they told me that if you want to be a coach full time, that it takes about a year and a half to build it up to be a full-time income if you're working really hard at it. And I didn't think a whole lot of that because I loved it. Like, I just genuinely enjoyed it, and I genuinely wanted to help people. So to me, I was looking at it as a hobby that I could do on the side just for some extra fulfillment and a way to keep myself on track. But lo and behold, that was a Saturday, and that following Monday, my boss tells us at our morning meeting that the investors were making some decisions and they might try to sell the company, or we might be closing for lack of funding, and a lot of different things could happen, and that we may only have a year or a year and a half left as a company. So kind of a little warning, but it was just totally coincidental that he had used almost the exact same wording that a coach who had done coaching full time told me I would need to if I wanted to do it full time. So I took it as a little ding ding sign from the universe, and I worked really hard at it. I genuinely loved it, but I put a lot of time and effort in up front to learn the ins and outs of the business and to really put myself out there. But it was something that was easy for me to do because I genuinely enjoyed it. I would have done it for free. I loved interacting with people and feeling like I was helping them in some way. But I really threw myself into it full force. So obviously I was still working at the time. So what I did was I would spend maybe an hour or two in the evenings working on it. And then my normal just maybe 5 to 10 minutes several times a day at work, where I would normally have checked the news or, gone and walked around the office building just to stretch my legs. I would spend that time just maybe getting back to a message or two from potential customers. And so it fit into my day really easily. Even while I was heating up my lunch, I would usually take that 5 minutes and just check in on Facebook with some of the potential customers that I had. So it all ended up working out really well, but there were definitely some bumps along the road. But this is what taught me to really trust the universe, because I did learn early on in the business that when you go through a slow point or you have a disappointment where maybe you think somebody's going to buy and then they back out, or you start to think, okay, this is the beginning of the end. Like, I had a lot of bites up front, but now nobody's really reaching out to me about it. Nobody's asking about it. This is the beginning of the end. And you start to feel like, I'm not cut out for this. I'm not a good coach. Nobody's interested. Maybe people were interested up front, but they're not interested anymore. How am I going to find more people? And all these doubts and fears start creeping in. That is by far the hardest part of your job as a coach, is to get through those doubts and be able to push on anyway and not quit. So anyways, the cool part though was that it worked. Anytime there was a disappointment, I learned to get excited, because that meant cyclically something good was about to come, and it happened every time. So over time, the business went through its ups and downs, but continued to grow. And one of the things that I thought was the coolest thing was that literally anytime we got some bad news at work, my Beachbody business would go through the roof. Either I'd get some referrals from people, or I would have somebody sign up to be a coach and they would be just rocking the business. All these different things were happening out of the blue. I remember one day we got some news at work that things might be closing down sooner than we thought. And literally that night I came home to a message from a friend that I had forgotten we were even friends on Facebook. I hadn't talked to her in probably 10 years since high school. And she messaged me out of the blue saying she wanted to be a coach. And that's where a lot of my business came from, was people that I was friends with, but, hadn't talked to in years. These were not my close friends that were the first ones to sign up. It was, people I had never thought would be interested. And even since then, I've gotten so many referrals from friends, either friends that are my customers sending other potential customers my way, or people that I know that I'm close with that don't have any interest in doing Beachbody stuff or working with me, but know somebody who does. And so I get these cool surprises all the time, and it just reassures me that everything is working out and we live in an abundant universe and it's all going to be fine. So anyways, as it turns out, I did end up losing my job in May of 2012 when the Pittsburgh branch of our company shut down, and it was cool because I was able to transition right into coaching full time. It was probably about March or April before that I was making at that point exactly what I was making as an engineer. So I had replaced my full-time income and it was easy to transition right in. But even before I got to the point where I was making as much as I did from my full-time job, I was still had points where I was making enough on the side that I knew I'd be able to get by if I lost my job. So having that backup plan and that stress reliever was a huge weight off my back, because I remember seeing my other coworkers super stressed out, wondering if they should look for another job. We all loved our company and we loved working there, so none of us wanted to quit if there was a chance that it was potentially going to carry on. But we were all afraid that, any given day we could just not have a job. So I remember my coworkers being super stressed out about this. And for me, it was kind of easy because I was making this money on the side on my own time. I could do work at 3 a.m. if I wanted, because the majority of my job is just talking to people online. So I can send an email or a Facebook message at any time of the day. And I was making money on the side, so I was stashing that money away into savings, knowing that if I lost my job, I would have this cushion. But it was also really comforting to know that if I did lose my job all of a sudden, even if it wasn't as much as my full-time income, that I still had this other source of income on the side. And that was a huge stress reliever for me, and I'll be forever grateful for that. But as it turns out, it ended up working even better than expected, because I was able to transition right into it full time, and I have just been loving it ever since. I wasn't sure if it would end up being stressful once it became my full-time job and it was something I had to do, not something I did because I loved it. But I just really learned along the way to trust the process, and I have complete faith in it, and I love what I do, and people see that I love what I do, and it attracts them to want to work with me, I guess. And so it's been working out great. But one last quick thing in terms of synchronicity, I have my Soul Search binder. You have the power to change the world. That was where I had wrote some of the notes when I was really stressed out when I was traveling, of what I would want to do if I lost my job. And it's just funny that all of these things completely nail what I do as a Beachbody coach. So I sort of subconsciously manifested it into my life. But just some examples. I had a question of, what am I intensely interested in? Health, fitness, helping homeless people, helping people in general, organization, teaching, nature, nutrition. What could you talk about late into the night with like-minded people without running out of things to say? Fitness, health, nutrition, event planning. I also wrote about charity events and things like that. And then I have all kinds of things in here about different things that were really meaningful to me. And a lot of this was charity work I had done, and I had organized some toy drives and some other charity stuff throughout my years in high school and college. I just really enjoyed doing that. Mentoring students I loved, managing and motivating people, keeping organized, figuring out new efficient ways to do things, creativity, connections. I didn't even realize I had the word connections in here. That's the big thing for me that I love to draw into my life. And all kinds of stuff that has to do with mainly helping people, and then also noting that my passions are health and fitness. So even here I have kindness circled, helping someone out, helping them achieve their goals, being nice to everyone, making people feel special, important, and worthwhile, making people happy, bringing fun into everything. A goal of mine was to work for a nonprofit or start my own charity. I liked the idea of different charities that involved also something with health and wellness. I wrote that down. Helping people achieve their fitness goals, giving generously. I wrote something here that was basically answering a question that if money wasn't an option, what would I do? And it was just raise money to sponsor myself working for various charities. So it was basically just paying myself to help people was my goal. So as you can see, it all ties into what I do now because I do get paid to help people and I get paid to motivate people, and organizing that and keeping things in track is part of my job, and event planning is part of my job if I want it to be, and helping people achieve their goals, and I get to utilize my passion for health and fitness too. So it has just been a blessing in my life, and it's been absolutely wonderful how the process worked out, and I've learned so many life lessons along the way, like trusting the process and trusting that the universe has my back. So that's my story of how I got into it. If you can relate in any way, or this sounds like something you might want to do either as a side hobby for fun like I started, or a little extra income on the side, or potentially making it your full-time job one time, get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you more about it and answer any questions you have. So, but whatever it is in life that's meaningful to you, go for it. It is so worth it, and I believe in you. So I'll talk to you guys soon.